Welcome to the Human Nature Channel. I'm your host, Alex Tamsul, and what am I doing here? Well, it's Wednesday morning once again at my dad's Drive Dull Caraway farm garage. Taking a break from doing a video last week was nice. I still came up, caught up on some of my reading. I finally finished I Heard You Paint Houses by Charles Brandt. Once again, thank you, Sean, for recommending this to me. I loved it so much. Look what I got. Hoffa, The Real Story by James R. Hoffa. Hoffa by Hoffa. I want to see if Hoffa in his biography mentions Frank Sheeran. I can't get enough of this stuff. And you know what's interesting about this book? I ordered it from Amazon on a Saturday afternoon. It was here by Monday, right? I knew what I was getting. I got used hardcover. So when it arrived, I'm like, yeah, it's bulky. It's what it's supposed to be. Took it inside. Took it out of the package, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I expected. And then I open it up, and I find out it's a library book. And suddenly I picture some guy sitting in his house, waiting for a visit from the library police. And when they show up, he says, I don't have it, but I know who does. Well, no wonder it got here so fast. Also, I did my song for this week's video last week, so it was kind of a working vacation. So what can I show you tonight? I happen to have a two-person saw. I think it's kind of nifty. It has this turnbuckle-like arrangement here, so I assume you can adjust the tension of the saw blade. If you can picture yourself on the other end of this saw, helping me cut through the bullshit, please subscribe. Gimme YouTube. Well, I think I got everything I need. I have a miniature coffee roaster. Oh, it's really cute too. I mean, you can turn the wheel. It's either a pencil sharpener or a roaster that roasts coffee beans one at a time. I have this very interesting ceramic figurine, right? Now, if I remember correctly, I don't think I made this. I think my brother made this in a high school art class. And it's really kind of nifty. Some kind of red clay, and it got fired in a kiln, and it was glazed and all that. Honestly, I can't remember if he has a name. But I'll tell you what. I'll throw it out to all you guys out there. What should we call him? I have my pointer with a magnet on it, my most important piece of equipment. Without it, my hillbilly teleprompter will not work. Then I'm stuck. And I happen to have a miniature ski with a miniature ski boot, and inside the boot is a cigarette lighter with a map of Germany on the back. Does it light? I'll show you at the end of the video. So, let's start off with a little news of the weird, shall we? Did you know that 666 days separate the October 1st Route 91 Harvest Festival Massacre from the July 28th Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting? I'm sure some of you have seen that. After I saw it online, I went to online calendars with my calculator and counted the days, and yep, it was exactly 666 days. Now, it's quite possible the kid who did the shooting, this Santino William Ligan, may have counted the days off himself to get to the magic number. 665 days wouldn't have quite the same impact. Ligan did buy his gun in Nevada. he began shooting on the last day of the festival as the band was starting their last song. He committed suicide, we're told. Now, no motive, eerie echoes of Vegas. Is that what Lee Gann had in mind? If it was, a gutless, useless, mainstream media can't be bothered with it. But Alicia Olive and the Cook brothers, survivors of the Las Vegas shooting, who were also at the Garlic Festival, the MSM will do a story about them, which falls conveniently into the what a coincidence department. And nothing more needs to be said. Also, let's not forget about 27-year-old Telemachus, or Fanos, another survivor of the Route 91 shooting who ended up dying in the borderline bar shooting of November 7th, 2018 in Thousand Oaks, California. When it comes to the Route 91 Harvest Festival massacre, I can't think of another mass shooting where survivors ended up at another mass shooting. Can you? Actually, the following was the gist of a comment I put on Truth Seeker's channel under her video, 3 Route 91 Survivors Survive the Gilroy Shooting. Craig H. had an interesting reply. It seems now that the story is the gunman killed himself. After being hit by several rounds from the police, he somehow managed to turn the AK-47 style weapon on himself and get off one more round, shoot himself in the head. I'm looking forward to the inevitable Human Nature Channel video about the coincidence between the 3 events that will hopefully end in a rousing performance of the song Borderline. Borderline, feels like I'm going to lose my mind. You just keep me pushing on, my love, over the borderline. I really got to work on that. To which I replied, yeah, after I made this comment, I saw the news reports out of Gilroy where the medical examiner was now saying Lee Gann shot himself. I almost went back to change the original comment where I said suicide by cop, but then I thought, hey, it's still a suicide, like Paddock or whomever it was. But following a thread of criminal cryptography, coded messages, Easter eggs hidden in mass shooting events, stuff inserted by an evil designer at work since 9/11, now that would be a Human Nature Channel video. Most definitely. And I'm taking requests too. I'll leave you with this. Garlic strong, evil designer make little joke. Is this crazy? Maybe. But don't forget, the Zodiac Killer may have been part of a network. It's hinted at in the movie Zodiac. Don't forget, Charles Manson had his fans. When I was out in California on a vacation back in 1980, I had a conversation in a coffee shop with a Charles Manson apologist. Charlie was railroaded, is what guys like that have to say. My attitude is, don't discount California weird as a source of diabolical behavior. Talking to this Charles Manson fan is probably one of the reasons I think the way I do. Next, let's talk about Jason Goodman and his recent crowdsourced the truth video, Chaos in the Vegas Skies, Did Little Birds Terrorize Route 91 Festival with special guest John Cullen, an hour and 15 minutes with the 2 and only John E. Hoover. Cullen is now up to what? 6 helicopters flying over the Route 91 Harvest Festival on October 1st, 2017? Hey, go big or go home. Or another way to put it, since being able to sell blockbuster movie-sized bullshit about the Las Vegas shooting isn't going to last forever, get busy and suck that money out of the rubes while there's still time. It could all end tomorrow. I left a comment under the Chaos in the Vegas Skies video, and I will share it with you. This is what I said to Jason Goodman. Does John Cullen have any auditory analysis pinpointing the sounds of shots from helicopters? If he doesn't, then he's just given us a silent movie. Talking about a bullet's supersonic crack is all well and good, but he must take into account the difference between the bang of a gun and the supersonic crack of a bullet. And a person on the ground won't hear the supersonic crack if they're standing outside the sound wave's cone. And that moving the AR-15 back and forth moves the cone back and forth, which can play tricks on people's ears. And even taking into account echoes between Mandalay Bay and the Luxor, if you don't take all that into account, there's nothing here. Folks, you're being conned. The video and sound recording from the cabbie parked in front of Mandalay Bay doesn't support any helicopter story. But auditory analysis of the sound on the cabbie video does support somebody firing from Mandalay Bay if you take into account bang versus crack versus echo and the AR-15 moving back and forth. Tell John to take Occam's razor and shave his neck beard. Also, did either John or Jason bother to read the LVMPD Fit Report? Doesn't sound like it. From the Unfit Report, page 41, he, Detective Balonek, retrieved his binoculars from his vehicle and scanned the north-facing tower of Mandalay Bay. Approximately 3/4 of the way up, the tower on the north end, Detective Balonek observed a silhouette of a male standing in a shooting position several feet back from a window. Detective Balonek could not see muzzle flashes. However, he did observe smoke. Is Detective Balonek lying, Jason? This is why I don't bother watching Crowdsource the Truth videos anymore, although I'm making an exception this one time to hear what Cullen has to say. But this is lazy slop. P.S. Plantation, Squirrel Hill. I present evidence, photographic evidence, that Laura Loomer and her friend Jacob Wohl were in a chain of events that led to the Pittsburgh Squirrel Hill synagogue shooting, something 10 times more compelling than anything John Cullen has to say. Yet Jason Goodman will not address this because it doesn't fit comfortably into his brand of fear-mongering. I have no respect for that. Jason should be exposed as somebody who does exploitation better than Roger Corman. For anybody hearing this for the first time, I live just outside of Pittsburgh and I go to Squirrel Hill every day. I knew one of the victims. Plus, long before the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, I was a big critic of Laura Loomer on Twitter, who simply does recycle Jim Quinn, the conservative radio personality from Pittsburgh who did the exact same anti-Sharia shit Laura is doing, except starting 17 years earlier. Do you know who Jim Quinn is, Laura? I'll bet you do. Quinn was on Clear Channel and he was syndicated. So crowdsource my disgust with Goodman's lame-ass crew. But there is money to be made in imaginative horror. Just ask Stephen King. Moving right along, a tip of the hat to Mike Turber over at 5x5 News for his video, Did Steve Paddock Do It? Audio analysis, Las Vegas shooting. I had seen this video over a year ago in its original form, but this time Mike would stop the video occasionally for some commentary. The video is a great aid in clear thinking about the Las Vegas shooting, which is, I hate to say it, something in seriously short supply. I'll leave a link to the video in the notes below in case you want to watch it. Two other videos of Mike's I'm leaving links to are Jason Goodman Claims Mike Turber is a Social Engineer, Part 1, and Jason Goodman Text from a Quackadoodle, ? You know, it never fails. When it comes to Las Vegas shooting videos, I always start off with one topic in mind, and I start accumulating material. Then something else comes up, sending me in a different direction. I was going to talk about that Australian man of mystery, concert producer Brian Hodges. Remember him? The strange witness to the Las Vegas shooting who originally claimed to the British press he was staying in room 32134 and said he heard the shooting, describing the attack as hardcore. But it turned out, according to hotel records, Hodges was staying not in room 32134, but in room 32314. Hodges seems to have a serious case of dyslexia, so bad he doesn't seem to know where the hell he really was. But I watched Mike Turber's videos on his chat room exchange with Jason Goodman, and I saw so much in it that the wheels in my head started turning. After that, I watched Goodman's Chaos in the Vegas Skies video and said to myself, that's it. I'm postponing our Brian Hodges trip down under, where livestock get put in paddocks. I got something to say about Jason Goodman. First off, the chat room back and forth between Jason and Mike revealed something about Jason Goodman I've suspected for a while. He is one big passive-aggressive wuss. Oh my God. I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. First, Jason says, leave me alone, Mike. Then he says, get me an interview with Eric Paddock, Mike. Then he goes back to saying, leave me alone, Mike. Then back to saying, get me an interview with Eric Paddock, Mike. I heard something like this before, Jason's voice, in another video of his. One where he was talking about, and two, Laura Loomer, after she handcuffed herself to Twitter headquarters in New York City on November 29th, 2018. That was the time she wore a yellow Star of David pinned to her jacket, somehow equating Nazi barbarism with getting kicked off a social media platform which a lot of people compare to an internet trash compactor. Laura did not take the keys to her handcuffs with her, forcing the police to bring along a pair of bolt cutters to cut her loose. Goodman said, that's a good way to lose some fingers. Yeah, Goodman is giving us a paranoid anti-cop fantasy about an NYPD officer cutting off Laura Loomer's digits. I'll do Goodman one better in the paranoia department. Hey, Laura, handcuffing yourself to a front door of Twitter headquarters made you a fire hazard. Didn't that occur to you, you selfish little twit? What the fuck is your problem? You didn't have the keys to the cuffs. What if there had been a fire at Twitter headquarters and somebody pulled the fire alarm? What if you had people streaming out the front doors trying to get out of a burning building? You would have been in the way, wouldn't you? That's what I would have said to Laura Loomer. But what does Jason do? He expresses his concern for her safety rather than chastising this bird brain for behavior that potentially put the lives of others at risk. Is Jason Goodman man enough to call Laura Loomer out on her bullshit? Doesn't seem like it to me. People are fond of saying Laura Loomer has such big balls. You know what I say? I say I can't get that picture out of my head. Oh well, enough of that stupidity. Let's get back to something more substantive as it pertains to Goodman's video, Chaos in the Vegas Skies, with special guest John Cullen. As I've said before, I have the background of an English teacher. But it's not just literature I'm interested in. I'm interested in all aspects of the English language, especially semantics. Semantics is where it's at, Jack. I got my copy of Language in Thought and Action, one of the seminal books on the subject by former professor, college president, and U.S. Senator, the late great S.I. Hayakawa. I would like to think old S.I. would understand some of the arguments I'm about to put forth. My Webster's New World College Dictionary 3rd edition defines semantics this way: the branch of linguistics concerned with the nature, the structure, and the development and change of the meanings of speech forms, or with contextual meaning. Meaning. That word shows up twice in the definition of semantics, and that's what really interests me. Meaning. When somebody is using words, especially in a public forum like YouTube, what do the words they're using mean? Let's talk about that. In Jason's latest Cullen video, he talks a lot about social engineers, which is kind of funny since that's the exact same thing he accused Mike Turber of being in those chat room exchanges. But what the hell is a social engineer anyway? I don't know. I don't know what Jason Goodman is talking about since he doesn't define what he means. And don't tell me it's self-evident. I won't let you get away with that. I know what the word engineer means. I got my start in computer-aided drafting a long time ago, working for an electrical engineer who happened to be a friend of mine. He needed somebody with artistic talent to do some drafting for him, and I ended up doing electrical schematics on a Mac. I also know what social means. When Melissa, who you will meet later, would bum a cigarette off me, I'd give her one because I'm social. But put the words social and engineer together in a phrase and what do you get? A meaningless insult. It's exactly like with the phrase conspiracy theory. Another meaningless bit of word sewage. The U.S. Department of Justice indicts criminals for conspiracy all the time. So what does somebody mean when they use the phrase conspiracy theory? That conspiracies don't happen? That's obviously bullshit. And theory? That's just some idea you put to the test, that's all. But put the word conspiracy together with the word theory, and as if by magic, it turns into an insult. That's some fucking magic. However, the words "this end up" on a cardboard box contains more meaning than the phrases social engineer and conspiracy theory combined. I would have thought Jason Goodman would have been above using weasel phraseology like that. Well, I guess if you can't beat them, join them, huh, Jason? Oh, it gets worse in the Goodman-Cullen video. Jason Goodman said in the video, "Now, this is not proof. We don't have proof. This is evidence. And we are starting to accumulate a mountain of evidence." In my Las Vegas shooting video number 16, where I put John on the hot seat for the first time, I jokingly referred to my big imaginary table with my big imaginary pile of shit on it. The shit being data I have been collecting and evaluating from other Las Vegas investigation YouTube videos. Except, I wasn't really joking. It is a big pile of shit, and remains a big pile of shit because none of us have the exact context in which the Route 91 Harvest Festival massacre occurred. Evidence is just another name for information, and information without context is useless. Information deliberately put into a bogus context is downright criminal. Keep that in mind. I don't have a problem with any YouTube Las Vegas shooting content creator, even if they may be mistaken, as long as I don't think they're engaging in exploitation. If Jen, at Nothing If Not Intense, insists Mary Lou Danley was in Vegas and at the Mandalay Bay on October 1st, 2017, fine, more power to her, considering how much we see Stephen Paddock in CCTV footage. It would be nice if we had some video giving us at least a glimpse of Mary Lou. But I say, hey, Jen, Keep digging into Mary Lou's background, because any person who would load all those magazines with Stephen Paddock's bullets, and after the 20th clip, not be the least bit suspicious about all the shooting Stephen seems to be preparing for, that person is some kind of shady. Maybe each and every one of us in the Las Vegas shooting truth community has some small piece of the truth. Maybe we are closer than we realize to putting together the complete context of the Las Vegas shooting. I mean, by this point, we are all conversant in a lot of details. If we had the complete context, all these details should fall neatly into their little boxes. Now, didn't the lock interrogation report tell us that there was a couple of attempts using a key card to gain entry into room 32135 that were rejected? That should fit in somewhere. Joe Napoli finding brass shell casings on the ground the night of the shooting, which I believe he did. That should fit somewhere too. What we don't need is some delusional make-believe context, which has no room for most of the facts we've been exposed to. John Cullen gives us a new flashing light in the sky. But how do I know it isn't some beacon on a distant cell phone tower flickering in the haze? Cullen gives us flashing lights in the sky that do not show up on radar. Cullen claims shots come from these helicopters but can't show one bullet strike on the ground that can be traced back to a helicopter. What's funny is Detective Balonek observing a silhouette in a window on the north-facing tower of Mandalay Bay in a shooting position doesn't seem to show up on John Cullen's radar either. Simply put, folks, what Detective Balonek saw puts the lie to everything John Cullen is selling us and everything Jason Goodman is trying to promote through him. Joe Napoli, who comes across as a good guy, finds brass shell casings on the ground after the Las Vegas shooting. So, Jason Goodman insinuates they fell from the helicopters full of Saudi Air National Guardsmen firing on a crowd of country western fans for God knows what reason. Well, the reason is supposed to be civil war in the House of Saud. But what would all that mass death in Vegas accomplish for some Saudi prince trying to off another Saudi prince? I can't imagine any reason this side of sanity why Prince Al-Wali bin Talal would be behind something like this. As far as explanations go, Stephen Paddock being not right in the head makes a hell of a lot more sense. Less moving parts. Getting back to the brass shell casings and using Occam's razor, it should be pointed out that brass casings are not that hard to come by, especially if someone knows where to buy reloading supplies. I could be wrong, but I don't think Joe Napoli touched any of those casings, and considering they could be evidence, that was probably wise. But we'll never know if those empty shell casings were warm. We'll never know if you could see a dent from where the firing pin hit the primer. We don't know anything about these shells. Cullen and Goodman want to believe they fell from helicopters. But with what little we know, could it be just as likely that somebody was planting evidence simply to make us believe they were from helicopters? John? To be quite blunt, it doesn't seem as if John Cullen knows a great deal about the Las Vegas shooting. He certainly doesn't seem to know what Detective Balonek observed. And if he doesn't know about that, then he certainly knows nothing about the failed attempts to enter Stephen Paddock's room. Hey, John Cullen, how do you connect the Saudi Air National Guard in the helicopters with the L-shaped bracket that made the fire door to the 32nd floor unopenable? I can't wait to hear. Like I said, I don't have a problem with any YouTube Las Vegas shooting content creator as long as they're not engaging in exploitation. But as far as I know, Cullen seems to be the only maker of Las Vegas shooting investigation videos also selling t-shirt merchandise. What is he, a vendor at a goddamn rock concert? Maybe that should tell us everything we need to know right there. And Jason, you can continue to ponder one of the great mysteries of our time, why people say Laura Loomer has big balls and not you. Meanwhile, the adults in the Las Vegas shooting truth community will continue trying to hash out once and for all a context to the Las Vegas shooting that has actual meaning. What we don't need are sharecroppers who only care about making money and getting famous at the expense of the victims and survivors of the Route 91 shooting. Jason mealy-mouthing that YouTube video investigators need to eat too means he knows exactly what I'm talking about and trying to beat his critics to the punch. Nice try, Jason. So anyway, before we end tonight's festivities, let me tell you a story from Squirrel Hill before the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. Like I said, I knew one of the victims. His name was Irv Younger. You may have seen on the news the Star of David memorials placed in front of the building, and if you did, you probably would have seen the one for Irv since it was prominent in the photographs. I can't say I knew Irv well, but he was part of the coffee shop crowd in Squirrel Hill. I was introduced to him years ago, and I considered him a friendly acquaintance. He really was a nice guy. Every time I passed him on the street, he'd wave and say hello, and I'd wave back and say hello. He was one of the regulars down in Squirrel Hill, like me. What makes my story a little strange is Melissa. Melissa was somebody I would always run into in the newsstand where I buy my cigarettes. I don't know what was up with Melissa or what kind of situation she was in, but she was one of those people whose glasses would slide down her nose so far that they would end up on her upper lip, kind of like this. And she was kind of short too, and would always look up at me and say, "Alex, have you seen Irv?" And I would say something like, "Well, not today, Melissa, but I did see him last week." I can't tell you how many times over the years she asked me, "Have you seen Irv?" Now, she would always ask me for a cigarette. "Sure, Melissa, but I'm such a bad influence on everybody. Why should you be spared?" Then came the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. Now Irv is gone, and I haven't seen Melissa since. Life can be like that sometimes. Oh, and the song, My Babe, written by the great blues man Willie Dixon. Have a good one. My baby don't stand no cheating, my babe. Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating, my babe. Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that midnight creeping. My babe is a true little baby, my babe. My babe, I know she loved me, my babe. My babe, I know she loved me, my babe. Oh yes, I know she loved me. She don't do nothing but kiss and hug me, my babe. True little baby, my babe. Ooh, 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 ooh. My baby don't stand no cheating, my babe. My babe, she don't stand no cheating, my babe. My babe, she don't stand no cheating. Everything she do so pleasing. My babe, true little baby, my babe. My baby won't stand no fooling, my babe. Oh yeah, she don't stand no fooling, my babe. Oh no, she don't stand no fooling. When she get hot, there ain't no cooling, my babe. True little baby, my babe. My baby, true little baby, my babe. My babe, 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 true little baby, my babe. Later.